Hello, con kính chào quý vị coi đài VSAM 1040 ngày hôm nay. Hôm nay mình sẽ nói về chuyện nộp đơn phá sản. Con sẽ introduce mọi người ở đây và yeah. So, hey, thank you for coming on VSAM 1040, speaking with us today about bankruptcy. Would you like to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what you do?
Sure, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course.
My name is John Wineas. I'm the founder of Wineas Law, where we practice bankruptcy law. We serve the Chicagoland area. I have 7 years of experience I actually just came from one of the biggest bankruptcy firms in Chicago, where I handle thousands of cases, Chapter 13s and Chapter 7s, and I decided to go off on my own to give bankruptcy clients a more personalized experience where I would be handling their case from start to finish, and they can contact me 24/7. And so far, it's been a great experience for me.
All right. And
My name is Taylor Kasla. I'm a partner at Agris Law Firm. We handle consumer rights and personal injury cases.
Hi, my name is Mike Agris, and Taylor and I are partners, Agris Law Firm, and as Taylor mentioned, we do consumer rights and personal injury.
okay. Dạ quý vị, John Wineas là luật sư làm về phá sản. Anh đã làm với experience là 7 năm. Taylor và Mike ở đây là luật sư ở Agris Law Firm và làm về vấn đề tai nạn và personal injury. All right, so I guess we can get into our Q&A session today. So first question is, what does it mean to file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy?
Well, first of all, most people who call me and have bankruptcy questions, they initially want to do a Chapter 7 case. A Chapter 7 case is the case where you're in it for 4 to 6 months and you're not repaying any creditors back. At the end of the case, you get a discharge of most of your debt. The problem with the Chapter 7 case is it's also called a liquidation chapter, which means if you have assets that are not exempt, the trustee can come and take those assets, liquidate them, sell them, and use the proceeds to pay off creditors. The other part of a Chapter 7 case is there is a requirement that you make a certain amount of money. If you are over a certain threshold, it's called the means test, you don't qualify for a Chapter 7 case. But other than that, a Chapter 7 case will help with a lot of types of debts. Certainly credit card debt, payday loans, medical bills, unsecured debt. Unsecured debt is when it's debt that's not tied to property. So something not like a car or a house.
You mentioned assets that are exempt and not exempt. Can you give us some examples of assets that are and are not exempt?
Sure. So the easy one is having a bank account with money in it. If you have a bank account with $4,000 or more, we cannot exempt all that out. So let's say you have a bank account with $10,000. The trustee can come in and take $6,000 of that and use it to pay off creditors. Another example is a house. If a house is fully owned, there's no mortgage, no lien on it, the trustee can actually come in and sell that house and use the proceeds to pay off creditors.
Can you explain what a trustee is so I can...
Oh, of course. I apologize for that.
No, you're good.
Trustee is kind of like the middleman in the case. They are the ones who will look at a case, see if there is anything to take and pay off creditors. They don't necessarily represent the creditors.
Okay.
That's why I said they're kind of like in the middle, where they will try and look for stuff to pay creditors who aren't active in the case.
Okay. And you were saying that accounts of $4,000 or more in a bank account is not exempt. What else were you saying that wasn't?
Assets like a house. So if you own a house and there's no lien on it, so there's equity in the house, the trustee, if there's enough equity in that house, can actually come and take the house, sell it, and then use proceeds to pay off creditors.
Okay. And then you said that usually at the end of the Chapter 7 bankruptcy, they're not repaying.
Yeah, so 9 times out of 10, a Chapter 7 case is pretty straightforward, where a client is not actually paying any creditors any money.
Okay.
The only time a creditor gets money in a Chapter 7 case is if the trustee comes in and sells something.
Okay, gotcha. Dạ, thưa quý vị, thường thường khi mà người ta tới với luật sư nộp đơn phá sản thì thường thường là mình sẽ file là Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Thường thường là cái case này là từ 4 tới 6 tháng và mình sẽ mình không có trả tiền cho creditor ngoài trừ khi you said, I'm so sorry, I apologize. You said unless the trustee comes in and sell off assets, right?
Correct.
Okay. Ngoài trừ khi người chính giữa là trustee tới và bán đi tài sản của mình. Alright. You want to move on to the second question?
Sure. So before we get on Chapter 13 bankruptcies, I think the viewers would probably want to know my understanding, and although we do, Taylor and I do consumer rights, we do a lot, our practice and your practice probably has tons of overlap as far as people come, they're struggling with that, and they want help. In a Chapter 7, essentially, it gives someone an opportunity to just start over, start fresh, right? Clean slate?
Correct. That's the goal of any bankruptcy, is get rid of all the debt or most of the debt, and then once you're out of bankruptcy, you don't have debt anymore.
Got it. And then I also think it'd be important to explain to the viewers, I think a lot of people, and I've learned this over the years, they almost use bankruptcy as like a knee-jerk reaction where it's like, oh, I'll just file bankruptcy. And I think some of the things you were touching on, which would be helpful to talk about, is you actually have to qualify.
Correct.
Like, in other words, people, oh, I've got a $10,000 medical bill, I'm going to file bankruptcy, right? You can't always do it,
Correct.
right? And then also not all debt, like my student loans or taxes, things like that. So could you sort of explain that to the viewers as well?
Right, and that's why I started off by saying everyone calls me saying I want to file a Chapter 7.
Totally.
But there are obvious restrictions to that. Someone making $200,000, $300,000 a year can't file a Chapter 7 because that just wouldn't be fair. Their creditor should get paid. Back to your question again?
You have to qualify, right?
Correct.
It's not just something where you can say, hey, this is what I want to do, I've got a lot of debt.
Right,
Okay.
exactly. And like you said, certain debts like student loans, which may change in the future, cannot be wiped out. A lot of debt owed to the government cannot be wiped out. So there are some types of debt that a Chapter 7 cannot actually wipe out.
Okay.
Those are exempt
Correct.
from bankruptcy.
So what are some of the qualifications or some of the cases where you would recommend them to file a Chapter 7?
If someone has a lot of credit card debt,
Okay.
if someone has a lot of medical bills, payday loans, never take out a payday loan, but unfortunately people fall into hard times and they take out payday loans. Those are the three most common types of debt I see that make a person really want to file bankruptcy and where it's really beneficial to do so.
Okay, let me just go ahead and translate a little bit here. So thường mình sẽ file Chapter 7 phá sản nếu như mình có nhiều nợ credit card, nợ medical bill. Nhưng nếu mình cái income mình cao quá thì mình sẽ không qualify để file phá sản Chapter 7. Và có những nợ mình cũng không có thể file phá sản, giống như là nợ student loans của học sinh. Yep. All right.
So let's move on then to Chapter 13. Can you tell us a little bit about 13 and when someone would qualify, and how is that different than a 7?
Sure. So unlike a Chapter 7 where, like I said, you're not paying creditors back every month, at 13 you're in it for 3 to 5 years and you're repaying creditors back every single month. How much you're paying every month depends on how much money you're making, how much debt you have to pay back, what you're trying to accomplish. The two main reasons I see people file a Chapter 13 are people who have a car repossessed and want to keep their cars. Because in a Chapter 13, you get to keep all of your assets, unlike the Chapter 7 case, and you can get your car back, and you have to pay back that car inside the case. Another reason is people who are about to lose their house. So if the bank comes in and is trying to foreclose on their property because they are behind on their mortgage arrears, they can put those mortgage arrears inside the bankruptcy case, inside the Chapter 13 case, and you're going to repay those arrears while you're in the case and save your house.
Got it. So it's almost like a debt settlement or debt consolidation where maybe you have couple $100,000 in debt, and you're basically paying back the creditors a lesser amount spread out over 3 to 5 years?
Correct.
Okay.
And then at the end of those 3 to 5 years, the consumer should be debt-free at that point?
Exactly, and that's always the goal. Another thing is, unlike the Chapter 7 case, when you can't wipe out certain tax debt or even student loans, in a 13, you can include that type of debt. I also see a lot of cases where people have a lot of parking ticket debt. Unfortunately, in the city of Chicago, people can rack up a lot of parking ticket debt, and the city will actually come take your car. In a 13 case, you can repay that credit or that parking ticket debt inside the case, get your car back, and then once you're out of bankruptcy, you won't have any debt anymore.
Okay, so just to summarize a little bit here, usually for Chapter 13, you said they're in it from 3 to 5 years. Basically, debt consolidation, where you can include student loan, parking ticket, car repossession, or behind on their mortgage.
Correct. Let me backtrack.
Yeah.
You can't discharge student loans in Chapter 13,
Okay.
but you can repay some of it back in the 13 case.
Okay, repay some of it back. I got you. Alright, so quý vị, chapter 13, khi mình file phá sản là mình sẽ trả lại cái số tiền nợ của mình nhưng mà ít hơn, thì là từ 3 tới 5 năm, và mình sẽ trả mỗi tháng tùy cái income của mình. Và cái case mà mình file phá sản thấy nhiều nhất ở chapter 13 là khi mà mình không có trả tiền nhà, hoặc là mình behind on mortgage, hoặc là chiếc xe của mình bị repossessed, hoặc là mình không có trả nợ của chiếc xe. Nhưng mà trong chapter 13 thì mình cũng có thể trả lại cái số tiền nợ của học sinh và những cái nợ parking ticket của thành phố. Thì trong vòng 3 tới 5 đó mình sẽ trả mỗi tháng cái số tiền ít hơn, rồi cuối cùng thì mình sẽ không còn nợ nữa. Yeah. All right.
My next question for you is, how can filing for bankruptcy help a consumer rebuild their credit?
So when you initially file for bankruptcy, your credit might take a little bit of a hit. But like we've been saying, once you're out of bankruptcy, you're going to get a fresh start. So once you're out of bankruptcy, your credit score itself will start to increase. Normally I see within a year at least. While you're actually in bankruptcy, you can also do things to rebuild your credit. You can get a secured credit card. You can get a car. Just make sure, I tell my clients, just make sure that if they do get a credit card, that they're paying the full amount every month, not just the minimum, because you don't want to get into a situation where 5 years down the road you want to file bankruptcy again because you're unable to make those full payments and you're only making those minimum payments again.
And then how does it that just filing for bankruptcy increases the credit? Is there just like an understanding that when someone files for bankruptcy that the debts are going to be discharged, a lot of them on the credit report?
Yeah, so after the case is over with and the discharge order is entered, that's when they should start, the creditors start reporting to the credit bureaus that debt is gone.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so just to recap here, once you file for bankruptcy, your credit will take an initial hit. You said that once all the filings are done, they can start rebuilding their credit by getting a secure credit card and paying it in full. Are there any other ways to start rebuilding their credit, or?
Yeah, and I think Taylor might have some suggestions too on rebuilding credit, but
Yes, you brought up a good point. After filing, you don't want to incur more debt, but if you can open up a credit card or some sort of line of credit, get a car loan, or paying it in full, you're just taking proactive steps to build credit while the bankruptcy is pending.
Okay, and do you know like kind of the duration of how long it takes to rebuild your credit to like a decent level?
Every single case is different.
Okay.
Yeah, that's $1 million question.
Yeah, nobody knows. The credit bureaus don't even know that answer.
Ok. Dạ, thưa quý vị, câu hỏi là khi mà mình nộp đơn phá sản thì mình có thể làm gì để giúp lại build lại cái credit của mình? Thì câu trả lời là khi mình nộp đơn phá sản thì cái credit của mình sẽ bị rớt xuống một chút xíu. Sau khi mọi thứ đã xong thì mình có thể bắt đầu build lại credit bằng cách là apply for một cái thẻ tín dụng, nhưng mà mỗi tháng mình sẽ trả hết cái số tiền đó chứ không phải là chỉ trả minimum không. Thì mỗi case nó sẽ khác nhau. Để mình build lại credit thì không có một cách gì để không có một specific cách để mình build credit lại. Nhưng mà từ từ mình có thể là mua một chiếc xe rồi trả mỗi tháng, hoặc là trả cái thẻ tín dụng của mình mỗi tháng in full. Alright. So again, my question is, how does filing for bankruptcy help a consumer who is harassed by debt collectors?
Well, the second you file a bankruptcy case, any action by a creditor to collect on debt has to stop immediately. It's called the automatic stay. Therefore, if someone files bankruptcy today, a creditor cannot call that person the next day or even the day of.
Okay.
That creditor cannot take any action, including repossessing a vehicle or suspending a license. Any act to collect on the debt is prohibited.
Okay. And how would they inform them?
That's a good question. So once you file a bankruptcy case, they will send notice. The bankruptcy courts will send notice to all creditors, but that might take some time. So if there is a creditor who is suing you and is about to garnish your wages or about to repossess your car, you would want to notify them immediately. And that's something I do for my clients. If they want me to, I will call them up, send them over the notice of filing immediately so they know it.
Okay. Dạ quý vị, câu hỏi là làm sao mà nộp đơn phá sản có thể giúp mình với những người đòi nợ. Thì câu trả lời của luật sư là khi mà mình nộp đơn phá sản, sau khi mà mình đã nộp đơn thì những người đòi nợ không có quyền gọi hoặc là you said that as soon as you file bankruptcy, they don't have the right to give you calls, repossess your car.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
gotcha. Sau khi đó thì những người đòi nợ không có quyền là gọi mình hoặc là lấy lại chiếc xe. Nếu mà mình cần phải notify thì luật sư cũng có thể làm. Luật sư có thể gọi những người đòi nợ và báo cho họ biết là mình đã nộp đơn phá sản và họ phải ngưng liên lạc mình. Alright.
So what should a consumer do if a creditor or debt collector continues to contact them after you file bankruptcy on their behalf?
So if it's right after the case is filed, they can't do it, right? But you can if you go to the judge and you file a motion to sanction them, the judge isn't likely to sanction them. So what should happen is they should tell them immediately, listen, I filed bankruptcy, here's my case number, here's my attorney's information, don't call me again. Then if it happens a second time, that's when you can go to court and sanction them and ask the judge to actually penalize them and make them pay your client, the debtor, money for doing that.
Does that happen often in your practice where your clients are still getting harassed by creditors and collectors after a bankruptcy is filed?
Initially, yes. So right after the case is filed, yes, they will still be getting those calls. But from my experience, once they do inform them that they are in a bankruptcy case and they give them the case number, it stops. I had situations where it doesn't stop, and that's when we go in front of the judge and tell the judge about it.
And is there a gap between the filing and when creditors are put on notice? Is that partially why?
Yeah, like I said, because the bankruptcy courts actually send notice out via mail, which could take up to 5 to 7 days for them to actually receive it. So if there is, like I said, something imminent happening where a creditor is about to do something to you, that's when I say, all right, we got to get them notice right away.
Okay.
Okay. Dạ quý vị, câu hỏi là mình nên làm gì nếu người đòi nợ hoặc chủ nợ tiếp tục liên lạc mình sau khi mình đã khai phá sản. Thì lần đầu tiên thì là mình có thể nói là đưa số phone của luật sư và để cho họ biết là mình đã phá sản rồi và không liên lạc mình nữa. Nếu họ tiếp tục liên lạc mình thì mình có thể đến tòa và có judge để kêu người ta là không liên lạc mình nữa. Thường sau khi mình nộp đơn phá sản, người ta sẽ gửi cái notice cho những người đòi nợ bằng mail, có thể từ 5 tới 7 ngày người ta mới nhận được. Nên nếu những người đòi nợ đang sắp làm gì mà trong vòng 5 tới 7 ngày đó, giống như là lấy chiếc xe lại hoặc là sắp lấy garnish wage, có nghĩa là lấy tiền lương từ check của mình, thì có thể liên lạc luật sư và họ sẽ liên lạc với những người đòi nợ và báo cho họ biết là mình đã nộp phá sản rồi. Alright.
How much does it cost for a consumer to file for bankruptcy?
It really depends on the type of bankruptcy they're filing. But for my firm, we typically do $350 to file the case, which covers court costs. After the case is filed, the attorney fees get paid, though. So in a Chapter 13 case, the standard fee in this district is $4,500, and that's paid throughout the life of the 13 case. In Chapter 7 case, my fees range from $1,500 to $2,000, and I'm very flexible with my clients on when they pay it back, how often they want to pay it, and how much.
Is that standard, the $1,500 to $2,000?
It's standard.
All right, so you're saying to file either a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13, the initial fee is $350, and then after that, in Chapter 7, lawyer fees are about $1,500 to $2,000. Chapter 13 is about $4,500, and you're saying it's paid throughout the course of the filing process.
Correct.
Ok. Dạ quý vị, câu hỏi là chi phí nộp đơn phá sản là bao nhiêu? Thì luật sư trả lời là Chapter 7 và Chapter 13, cái fee đầu tiên là $350 để nộp. Sau khi đó, chi phí của luật sư của Chapter 7 là từ $1,500 cho tới $2,000. Và Chapter 13 là khoảng chừng $4,500. Thì mình có thể nói chuyện với luật sư và deal với nhau để là xem là quý vị có thể trả bao nhiêu trong cái process mà mình nộp đơn phá sản. Ok.
It's time for a break.
Ok. Dạ quý vị, con xin quý vị đi để mình quảng cáo.
Kính chào quý vị. Tổ hợp luật sư Ares là một tổ hợp luật sư có trên 1.000 đánh giá 5 sao. Tổ hợp luật sư có rất nhiều luật sư kinh nghiệm chuyên lo về nhiều lĩnh vực khác nhau. Trong đó, chúng tôi có luật sư chuyên lo về thương tích gây ra bởi tai nạn xe cộ, bị thương tích tại nơi làm việc hoặc trong siêu thị, người thân bị ngược đãi trong nhà dưỡng lão, sơ suất trong y khoa hoặc thương tích bị thú nuôi tấn công, các vấn đề quấy rối đòi nợ, vấn đề bị sai sót trong điểm báo cáo tín dụng của quý vị. Bên cạnh đó, chúng tôi còn có luật sư chuyên lo về các vấn đề hình sự, phạm pháp, DUI, lái xe bị phạt tích kịch, luật sư chuyên về gia đình, ly dị, công chứng, di sản, thừa kế tài sản, thiết lập di chúc, luật sư về mua bán nhà cửa hoặc mua bán tiệm nail, mua bán cơ sở thương mại, tranh chấp kiện tụng cơ sở thương mại. Luật sư về khai phá sản sẽ giúp quý vị nếu quý vị không còn khả năng trả nợ và muốn làm lại từ đầu. Luật sư về di trú, bảo lãnh thân nhân sang Mỹ, du lịch, du học, EB3, EB5 và các vấn đề thẻ xanh, thi quốc tịch. Nếu quý vị cần giúp đỡ, xin vui lòng liên lạc với Ngọc. Số điện thoại là 773 906 9999 773 906 9999. Xin chân thành cảm ơn quý vị. Kính chào.
My name is Taylor Kasla. I'm a partner at Agris Law Firm. I started in August 2017, and after 3 years of practicing, I was named partner in February 2021. Personal injury clients come to our office in a time of need and sometimes desperation. Something devastating happened to them. We can provide clients with peace of mind by ensuring them that we are here to help. We are in this together and we will take care of them. We are a fast-acting law firm. We are responsive to our clients and maintain open lines of communication. Our sense of urgency is part of what makes us different from other law firms. We put people first, and we make sure we get our clients the compensation they deserve. Our consumer rights practice is a national practice, so we can help people from the East Coast to the West Coast. There are laws in place to protect consumers, and not everyone knows these rights exist. And certainly not everyone knows or even believes that our clients never pay us a penny. Several consumer rights statutes contain a fee shift provision, which means that if we prevail, the defendant must pay our attorney's fees and costs. Our consumer clients appreciate the work that we do, and that makes my job rewarding. What I like most about plaintiffs' work is getting to know our clients, understanding the facts of what happened and how the occurrence affected our client. As an attorney, we are given a set of facts, and it is our job to create a timeline and story of events. We must put ourselves in the shoes of our client, whether that be at the scene of the accident or months after at home learning how to adapt to a disability. Having had a family member sustain a life-altering injury, I can relate with my clients and their family members, and this fuels my passion for what we do, putting people first. My favorite animal is a dog. The app I use most is Apple News. It's hard to say what my favorite food is because it depends on what I have a taste for, but generally I like steak and seafood. I love to travel, and Florida is one of my favorite places to escape to because you can go to the beach, play golf, and eat at great restaurants. I like my weekends like I like my weekdays, which is busy. I like being outside, whether that's going for a run along the lake, golfing, or skiing. I spend time with family members and friends. I love having people over to cook for and to try new recipes with. Since I was born, I knew I would be a lawyer or doctor. I learned early on that I did not care for science, which made it easy for me to pursue a career in the law. My job is perfect for someone with a passion for the law and medicine because these two areas coincide with personal injury and medical malpractice cases. I enjoy reading John Grisham books and have acquired quite a collection over the years. I'm always up for watching a new movie, but generally I enjoy the classics like Goodfellas and Father of the Bride. At Agers Law Firm, we are a hardworking team of people who are determined to maximize results for our clients. Each member of our firm plays an important role in the success of our practice. Our focus is to ensure that we are available to communicate with our clients and to ensure they have the representation they need. We are dedicated to putting the needs of our client first above all.
Kính chào quý vị, quay lại với chương trình VSAM 1040 nói về nộp đơn phá sản. Thì câu hỏi tiếp theo là can you tell me about credit report issues that you see most common with your clients?
Sure. So a lot of issues I see actually occur after the case is over with. I see a lot of times that the debt is discharged, but the creditors are not reporting that to the credit bureaus. And then sometimes I see before a case is filed, I see a lot of accounts that should be marked closed but are still marked as open. And I'm sure you guys have a lot of issues that you see too.
And that's where we come into play.
Yeah.
We help consumers disputing that inaccurate information on their credit report, and we send dispute letters to the bureaus, and if the inaccuracies aren't fixed, if they're not reporting that discharge or account status properly, we file suit against the bureaus and whoever's furnishing that information. And we're able to do that under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, which is federal law. It applies to everyone. And the great part about that law is there's a fee shift provision, so the clients don't owe us a penny to represent them, and we always get their credit report corrected and accurate.
How often do you see them fix that issue right away?
With an initial dispute, I'd say 25% of the time, tops.
Yeah, I think that might be generous, but even no matter how many times they fix it or not, what's great about it is the moment we sue them, then it gets fixed.
Yes.
So we always, and we don't do bankruptcy, but we have tons of overlap, like I said at the
Right.
beginning, with our clients.
So it's either fixed or you get paid. Your clients get paid, right? I mean,
it's interesting. It's either fixed or it's fixed after we sue.
Okay.
So no matter what, it gets fixed.
Okay.
And this is something where, when we're talking to people who have been involved in bankruptcy, we always tell them, once the discharge is done and you've got your clean slate, like a lot of times people think like, oh, great, this is all over. And I always say like, hey, that's just the beginning.
Right.
Pull your credit report, because the idea is to get a clean slate and then start off increasing your credit score and making sure it's accurate and setting yourself up for better credit in the future.
Right.
And we see that all the time, just like what you described, where debt's discharged in bankruptcy and it's not updated on someone's credit report. And it may seem minor, but everything's important in a credit report. So.
And a lot of times the companies change, right? I mean,
Yeah.
these collection agencies change left and right. So sometimes the original creditor is not the same creditor at the end of the case. And is that what you see happen sometimes? And that's why they didn't mark it as being discharged debt, or?
Yep, we'll see that. I see that oftentimes with judgments, which I find really interesting because you'll have, a high volume firm that's just suing, getting judgments right and left, and then years down the road, they may not be in business. Like, for example, there was someone who just reached out to us, and I lived and practiced out in California, and there was a big collection firm out there called Man Bracken, and I don't think it exists anymore. But if they sued and got a judgment and they're on your credit report, it's like, how do you go about fixing that?
Right.
So, yeah, I think that happens as well, where names change and you can't figure out who's got the judgment. But I always tell people in bankruptcy is once you get that discharge, look at your credit report and go line by line, because every single entry is important.
Right.
All right. So just to summarize, one of the most common things you see about credit report issues is that debtors or collectors are not reporting to the credit bureau. That's where you guys come in, and do you initially ask them to correct the report, and then if they don't, then we're going to court and suing, or
Yes, under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, a consumer actually has to initiate a dispute, so they need to tell the bureaus, this is inaccurate and this is why. Then the bureaus conduct an investigation, and it's really the result of that investigation determines whether there's going to be a lawsuit or not, because if they continue to report the inaccurate information, then there's a case and we can file suit.
Okay, sounds good. Dạ, quý vị, câu hỏi là các vấn đề báo cáo tín dụng mà luật sư thấy nhiều nhất với khách hàng của mình là gì? Thì vấn đề là những người đòi nợ hoặc là collector họ sẽ không báo cáo là mình đã file phá sản, và cái đó sẽ vẫn nằm ở trên cái báo cáo tín dụng của mình. Thì sau khi mình nộp đơn phá sản, mình nên coi lại cái file và check với cái credit report của mình, báo cáo tín dụng của mình, coi là họ có lấy cái số nợ đó off chưa. Thì nếu không, mình có thể báo cáo với credit bureau và nói là những người đòi nợ và collector họ đã không có lấy cái khoản tiền đó ra khỏi cái báo cáo tín dụng của mình. Và nếu họ không lấy ra khỏi cái credit report của mình thì mình có thể nói chuyện với luật sư giống như là Taylor and Mike ở đây, và mình sẽ có thể sue những người đòi nợ và collector đó để họ lấy cái record ra khỏi cái credit report của mình. Alright.
So if a consumer is considering bankruptcy and considering contacting a bankruptcy attorney, are there any steps they should take beforehand, before they reach out to you, whether it's, it's a last-ditch effort before contacting you, or if they've decided, hey, I think this is something that I do want to do, what steps should they take before they contact you?
Sure. Well, I would first say they should pull a credit report, get an understanding of what kind of debt they have, how much debt they have, what's showing up on a credit report. There's a lot of free websites that provide free credit reports out there. And if the debt is minimal, if they don't have a ton of debt, try contacting the creditor directly. Say, hey, I can't afford to pay you this much. Will you settle for this? And if they won't settle, then contact the bankruptcy attorney, contact me, and we'll go through all the options.
Is there a website you like in particular for getting credit reports?
I think Taylor has a few, don't you?
Yeah, we recommend clients use annualcreditreport.com. Okay. Under federal law, you are entitled to a free copy of your credit report every 12 months. But because of the pandemic, I know they were offering it more frequently. Do you recall how often you could get it for free?
It's certainly more often than once a year. I can't remember exactly how much or how often you can pull it, but I know that annual credit report is allowing people to pull their credit more often than once a year. And even so, I'm sure you have access to programs where you can pull credit. We do the same thing for people. So it's important to know that there's a free site you can go to, but even if you have an issue, bankruptcy attorneys, consumer right attorneys can also pull credit.
Okay. Dạ quý vị, câu hỏi là người tiêu dùng nên thực hiện những bước nào trước khi liên hệ với luật sư phá sản. Thì câu trả lời của luật sư là mình đầu tiên nên coi cái credit report của mình, có nghĩa là cái báo cáo tín dụng. Thì khi mình có cái credit report, mình coi là mình nợ bao nhiêu tiền. Nếu cái số tiền đó không lớn quá thì mình nên liên lạc người collector hoặc là những người đòi nợ để coi họ sẽ có thể settle với một cái số tiền mình trả ít hơn hay không. Nếu không được thì mình nên liên lạc với luật sư và họ có thể coi cái báo cáo tín dụng của mình luôn. Họ recommend là mình lên annualcreditreport.com để check cái báo cáo tín dụng của mình. Cái này là free và một năm mình được check cái credit của mình là một lần. Nhưng mà với Covid thì mình có thể check nhiều lần hơn, thì nên check với luật sư và online để mình có thể kéo cái báo cáo tín dụng của mình và check credit report trước khi mình nói chuyện với luật sư về nộp phá sản. Alright.
So for consumers who are falling behind on their bills, maybe have significant medical or credit card debt, at what point should they really consider filing for bankruptcy?
Well, they should definitely consider filing if they're getting sued from that debt. So if someone's trying to sue them for that type of debt, they should definitely consider filing bankruptcy, because once you file bankruptcy, they have to stop that lawsuit and drop it. If they're behind on a car note, like I discussed earlier, and they're going to come take their car, you should file bankruptcy and stop that from happening.
And is your thought as far of a lawsuit to file a bankruptcy before there's like a judgment against them and like the garnishment starts?
Yeah, it's ideally it would be right when they file a lawsuit, but even if there is a judgment, as long as they didn't go through the process of garnishing their wages yet, that's fine. And even if they are garnishing their wages, they can file bankruptcy and stop that.
And get that to stop.
All right. So in summary, you said, when should a consumer consider filing for bankruptcy? You're saying when they're getting sued for that debt, or they're garnishing wages, repossessing cars, and when they're taking action towards
right.
it.
And even if they're just constantly getting harassing calls from creditors and they just can't take it anymore, if their license is suspended for parking tickets or red light tickets, they should consider filing bankruptcy. If their tax refunds are getting taken from creditors, they should consider filing bankruptcy.
Okay, sounds good. Dạ, quý vị, câu hỏi là khi nào mình nên nộp đơn phá sản, thì câu trả lời của luật sư là khi mà những người đòi nợ hoặc là collector họ sue mình, hoặc là họ tới lấy xe của mình, hoặc là họ lấy số tiền từ cái paycheck của mình ra, thì mình nên nói chuyện với luật sư và consider nộp phá sản. Hoặc là nếu quý vị có những người đòi nợ mà họ cứ gọi mình hoài hoặc quấy rối, số phone mình và họ I apologize, và họ không ngưng, thì mình nên nói với luật sư và consider nộp đơn phá sản. Alright. So, does a consumer need to meet you in person or go to court for his or her bankruptcy case?
So I started my practice during the pandemic, actually, and I was initially meeting clients in person. And after about a few meetings, I realized I should just do this over Zoom. It's safer, and my clients actually liked it a lot more. So now I've been doing everything virtually. Unless my client wants to meet me in person, I can go to the office and meet them in person. As far as court goes, they're still doing everything over Zoom, so there are no in-person court hearings yet. That might change soon. But I found it's been very easy for not only myself, but also my clients.
Yeah, is it standard practice these days for bankruptcy lawyers to contact most of their clients over Zoom or phone call?
Yeah, it is, and I found it kind of strange. I heard the other day some firms are actually not doing Zoom; they'll just do everything over the phone.
Okay.
But personally, myself, I like to actually meet my client over Zoom, face to face. At least there's some kind of personalized touch to that to see who you're dealing with. And there's a trust factor too, that my clients trust me more if they actually can see me.
Okay. Yeah.
Are they also doing, so you meet with clients over Zoom, court proceedings are over Zoom. I know a little bit about bankruptcy where in Chapter 7, there's the 341 hearing where creditors meeting. Is everything start to finish over Zoom?
Everything is over Zoom now.
Okay. I mean, that's got to be much more efficient.
Well, I was waiting 2 hours for a 341 meeting the other day, and the problem is some of these trustees are a little older and not tech savvy.
Yeah.
So I think they were having issues with connecting people to the Zoom, but I'd still take that over driving to the courthouse to have these meetings, which could take an hour to even get there. I mean,
Yeah. Do you think it'll eventually go back to in person?
I don't think the trustee meetings will. I really don't.
Okay.
And I know a lot of bankruptcy judges really like the Zoom hearings too. Now, for other areas of law, when you have actual trials, I think obviously those will go back to in person if they haven't already.
Right. I think, and I'm sure there's plenty of times in bankruptcies where things are contested. But I feel like in an uncontested case and things are pretty straightforward for a bankruptcy case, to me it just seems much more efficient. Like in our practice too, like state court personal injury cases or when we're in federal court on a consumer rights case, if it's just routine and it's a status conference, a case management, and nothing's contested, it saves so much time and money
Exactly.
to just do things over Zoom.
Your Honor, can I get a date?
Yeah.
Thank you. And that's it. But
Exactly. I lived out in LA and practiced out there from 2008 to 2011, and they were way ahead of the curve with court call. And it was incredible because if you're state licensed in California and you're practicing in state court, there's a bazillion counties to practice in. And to think about, having to travel to a county for a case management conference. And so even back in 2008, we had court call. And if it was something, they would even have contested motions over the phone. But the idea is you call in, you put it on hold and put it on mute. You can go do other work.
Right.
And then when your case is called, you just handle it over the phone. So I think it's so much more efficient.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I'm a huge fan of it. So.
I just have a couple questions regarding Zoom and phone calls. So throughout the entire process, about how much time would they have to spend meeting with you over Zoom, and how long do these, court meetings also take up?
Right. So in terms of coming in to file bankruptcy with me, filling out the paperwork and doing everything takes about an hour.
Okay.
And then in terms of court, it really depends. Like I said, I was waiting 2 hours the other day for a court hearing.
Yeah.
But the actual meeting itself lasted 5 minutes.
Okay.
And as long as there's nothing contested, there shouldn't be any other court hearings. So.
Okay. Sounds good. Let me just translate here. Dạ quý vị, câu hỏi là những người tiêu dùng có cần gặp luật sư trực tiếp hoặc ra tòa hay không? Thì câu trả lời bây giờ với trường hợp của COVID thì mỗi cái meeting và gặp mặt với luật sư là đang ở trên Zoom, và khi ra tòa là tòa cũng đang làm Zoom, thì có thể xếp mình thời gian. Luật sư trả lời là một cái meeting hoặc sự gặp mặt với luật sư để file phá sản khoảng chừng 1 tiếng. Rồi tòa thì có thể là lâu hơn, nhưng mà là tùy trường hợp. Yeah. Alright.
So while we're talking about clients meeting with you over Zoom, once they've scheduled that meeting, the initial consultation, and if you could share some advice to the viewers watching the show, what do you recommend that people do to prepare for that first meeting with you? What documents should they bring? You had mentioned before pulling a credit report. Mm-hmm. What else can they do to make that consultation as efficient as possible?
Right. So to file bankruptcy, you need copies of your pay stubs and your tax returns. In terms of the credit report, I pull credit reports for all my clients. So if that first meeting with me, to make it most efficient, if they could have their pay stubs with them for the past 4 months and then their tax returns for the past 4 years, a lot of clients have trouble getting those tax returns, especially the older ones. I can request them from the IRS, but unfortunately the IRS takes months to actually send me those tax returns. But those are the 2 documents that are needed to file bankruptcy, and will also make the whole meeting go by faster.
How do you get previous tax returns how do you order the past 4 years?
Well, you sign a form, a power of attorney,
Yeah.
then you fax it because for some reason you can't just email it to them. You have to fax it to the IRS.
Okay.
Then even, especially like during tax season, then you call them every week and you're saying, hey, what's going on? Did you get the power of attorney? And they say, yeah, we got it, but we're still processing it. And then if you call them enough, they'll get it to you a little sooner. But when you do call them, you're on hold for a couple hours.
You were able to retrieve those credit reports, I'm sorry, for your tax returns from like accounts that file your taxes, or is that something that can only be retrieved through IRS?
So clients can retrieve tax returns from their accountants.
Okay.
They can go directly to their accountant if they did it through an accountant. A lot of times, though, these accounts move or they're nowhere to be found. So, and if you don't have a hard copy of your own tax returns, it's kind of hard to find. So.
Okay. Yeah, let me just translate here. So, câu hỏi là bạn cần mang gì cho cuộc họp đầu tiên với luật sư để nộp phá sản? Thì luật sư trả lời là mình nên có cái tax return trong vòng 4 năm, khai thuế của mình trong vòng 4 năm, và pay stub trong vòng 4 tháng, có nghĩa là paycheck của mình, là check của lương, và nếu có thể là credit report luôn. Nếu mình không có cái khai thuế của mình trong vòng 4 năm thì mình có thể liên lạc với IRS, nhưng mà cái đó có thể rất là lâu và có thể lấy tới vài tháng của quý vị. Thì mình nên là giữ cái copy khai thuế ở nhà và có thể liên lạc với những người accountant đã khai thuế cho quý vị để lấy được cái tax return của mình. Alright.
We already touched on this a bit, but from the moment that you meet with a client and you get those pay stubs and tax returns, how long does it take to then file for bankruptcy and then for the bankruptcy to be discharged?
Yeah, so once I set up that initial meeting to file the case, it takes about an hour to go through the actual bankruptcy petition, fill it out, and then have my client sign everything and then file the case.
And do they have to, is that an ink signature that's required?
So because of COVID, they're accepting electronic signatures, but in the past, they didn't accept that, which is very convenient now for everybody. I hope that doesn't change either. And in terms of how long the bankruptcy actually lasts, a Chapter 7 case will last about 4 to 6 months, more towards the 6-month period. And a Chapter 13 is 3 to 5 years.
Okay, 3 to 5 years. So you're saying it's about an hour to meet with you, file, sign. Chapter 7 is about 4 to 6 months, the entire process, and then Chapter 13 is about 3 to 5 years. Ok. Dạ, quý vị câu hỏi là quá trình nộp đơn xin phá sản từ đầu đến cuối khoảng bao nhiêu lâu? Thì câu trả lời là khi mà mình gặp với luật sư, bây giờ là trên Zoom nên khoảng chừng 1 tiếng, và sau đó mình sẽ ký giấy là e-signature luôn, là mình ký giấy online luôn, không cần gặp mặt luật sư. Và Chapter 7 thì là từ 4 tới 6 tháng, và Chapter 13 là từ 3 tới 5 năm cái process. Yeah. Alright. And my question is, how has COVID impacted your practice and filing for bankruptcy in general? I know you touched base on it a little bit, but
Yeah, so like I said, nowadays we do everything virtually.
Okay.
And that's really how my firm has changed things, and it's worked out great so far. Pre-COVID, everyone would have to come to the office, sign off on documents, and print stuff out, drive to the office, and everything like that. It took a little bit more time.
Yeah. Do your clients prefer this method of Zoom and phone calls?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Dạ, câu hỏi là Covid đã ảnh hưởng quá trình nộp đơn phá sản như thế nào? Thì luật sư trả lời là thực sự là bây giờ mình làm mọi thứ trên Zoom và online nên rất là tiện cho quý vị và những người nộp đơn. Mình không cần phải nghỉ làm và vô văn phòng, mình có thể làm mọi thứ online và nó sẽ nhanh và dễ hơn. Alright.
And while we're talking about COVID, have bankruptcy filings gone up or down?
Way down.
Why is that?
My suspicion, and I've talked to a lot of bankruptcy attorneys about this, is because with all these COVID restrictions, creditors aren't able to actually collect on debt, a lot of creditors at least. So for instance, if you haven't been paying your mortgage or haven't been paying rent, they can't kick you out of your house. And additionally, if you're on unemployment, creditors can't garnish unemployment. So right now, people aren't really feeling the pressure to do something because creditors aren't able to actually take action against them. And unfortunately, I think that once all this stuff is lifted, that's going to change dramatically. I think people are all of a sudden going to be getting sued more. They're going to face evictions. Their houses are going to go into foreclosure, and there's probably going to be a dramatic increase in bankruptcies.
And I think they keep extending the moratorium, right, on eviction
I can't even
foreclosures.
keep up with it. I mean, honestly, they keep extending it and changing things. So,
Do you know now when the cutoff is?
I don't. I knew what it used to be. Now I'm not sure.
Is that on a local or federal level? These
Federal and state.
Okay, so it's separate though.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can't initiate foreclosure proceedings, you can't evict people, and then there's also unemployment and then additional stimulus money for COVID. And so you're right. I feel like in the past when people would contact us and we would refer them out to bankruptcy attorneys, there was a massive sense of urgency, like I just got served with a garnishment notice,
exactly.
or I just got served with foreclosure proceedings. And they had to act immediately,
Right.
where maybe some of that sense of urgency is not around anymore.
Yeah, there is none.
But
It's just people, and it's going to happen, and it's going to happen quickly once all this stuff is lifted, and it's going to be pretty bad.
So is there any advice you would give to those who are, because of COVID, kind of putting off, reviewing their debt or their credit report?
I would say get ahead of the game.
Okay.
Because do you think the courts will be like backlogged once?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Courts will be backlogged.
So it'll take longer for the bankruptcy to be discharged?
Yes, it'll definitely take longer for like a Chapter 7 case to get discharged. But yeah, I think you should just get ahead of the game now, rather than put it off and then have it hit you once, just for your own peace of mind too.
So you're saying they should probably prepare and know what's going on with their debt, and when this is, do you recommend they file bankruptcy now or wait until all of this kind of blows over and then consider?
It really depends on everyone's different situation, but I would say that if you're racking up a lot of credit card debt or unsecured debt, and you should go ahead and file and get rid of it now, and start to rebuild, get that fresh start and start to rebuild your credit sooner than later.
Okay. Yeah, so quý vị, mình hỏi luật sư là khi mà Covid và mọi thứ xảy ra thì thấy là người ta có file bankruptcy hoặc là phá sản nhiều hơn hay là ít hơn, thì câu trả lời là người ta bây giờ đang file rất là ít, tại vì Covid làm cho những người đòi nợ và những người collector người ta không có collect được, hoặc là nếu mà mình có nhận tiền unemployment thì nhà nước không có lấy, hoặc là những người đòi nợ không có lấy cái số tiền ra khỏi unemployment được, nên số người mà file bankruptcy nó bây giờ ít hơn. Nhưng sau khi những cái policy của Covid xong đi và mình trở lại bình thường, thì những người đòi nợ và collector hoặc là số tiền về nhà của mình nó có thể catch up. Nên luật sư khuyên là mình check credit, nên coi là mình có nợ nhiều hay không và nên giải quyết sớm hơn. Yeah.
So as we come to conclusion of the show, is any advice you could give the viewers who are having financial issues, contemplating bankruptcy, trying to figure out, what to do? What advice would you have for people?
I'd say call me. I mean, they'll get a free consultation, and I don't push people into filing cases by any means. What I do is I look at their totality of circumstances. I say, listen, you don't have too much debt. You're okay. Try doing this. Try with parking tickets. I see a lot of parking ticket issues. Try working something out with the city. They have a lot of new programs now to repay that kind of stuff and get on a payment plan. Don't jump and file bankruptcy just because you have a few parking ticket debt issues. Same with credit cards. There are some debt consolidation companies. You can try and contact one of them, see what they have to offer. But yeah, that's the advice I would give, is honestly just talk to a bankruptcy attorney and just see what they have to say and what kind of advice they would give you.
Got it. And I think that's important that we haven't talked about is you do offer free consultations.
Of course.
Okay. And I'm sure people contact you all the time saying, hey, I've got a messy financial situation, here's all the things going on, and just like you said, they may be a candidate for bankruptcy or they may be a candidate for some alternative.
Right.
Okay, fair enough.
So even if they don't proceed with file bankruptcy with you, is it still free consultation for them, or are
Of
there
course.
fees?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah. No fees. You know, anyone can call me and I'll give them a consultation.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds like a sweet deal. Let me just translate here real quick and then we'll wrap up. So quý vị câu hỏi là có những lời khuyên gì không đối với những quý vị mà đang suy nghĩ về file phá sản, thì luật sư trả lời là nên gọi luật sư, gọi ảnh hoặc là một người luật sư nào có thể advice mình về cái chuyện là mình file phá sản. Thì luật sư Mike ở đây là ảnh offer free consultation, có nghĩa là sẽ không tính tiền quý vị, để coi là quý vị có qualify để mình nộp đơn phá sản hay không. Thì đó là câu hỏi cuối cùng và hôm nay chương trình mình sẽ kết thúc. Để Jessica chào những guest của mình và quý vị luôn. So thank you for coming on the show and speaking with us today about bankruptcy. I appreciate having you here. And again, it's very nice to see you, Mike and Taylor. It's been great talking to you guys.
Of course. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.